Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 234. I'm Andrew Eisen, your host for this here podcast where we cast pods all over the place and then don't pick them up because we're grown now and no one can make us pick up our cast pods. So, welcome. Hope you're all having a lovely week. After last week's podcast, what the hell did I spill on my desk? After last week's podcast, I went shopping because my cupboards were bereft of noms. So, headed to the grocery store to remedy that. I drove there. I parked, walked in, grabbed my goods, went out, put in the trunk, closed the trunk, get in the car. Looked behind me to make sure there was no one behind me as I backed out of the space. Kept checking my mirrors. And then suddenly my trunk was open. So I put my car in neutral, put on the brake, got out of the car, closed the trunk, and it didn't stay closed. So I pulled back into the space and looked at it more carefully and found that, hello Lindy, and found that my trunk, the latch on the trunk, was broken. Don't know how that happened, because it just broke. I don't think I closed it too forcefully. I wasn't angry at the time. I was angry after I discovered it was broken, because that's inconvenient, and I don't like inconvenience. It's inconvenient! I still had another store of groceries to go to. I also had, even if I didn't, I had to drive home, and tough to see out the back of your car when your trunk's hanging open. I can always put the bag of groceries on the floor of the passenger seat next to me. That's not a problem. Still, can't drive around with the trunk flopping all over the place. And I had no rope or anything in the car, so I unlaced one of my boots, and I used a shoelace to tie the trunk closed. As closed as I could get it, tying it from the outside. Parking lot was dark, did not feel like crawling into the trunk through the back seat and closing it more properly. That could wait for later. So I tied the trunk closed from the outside with my shoelace. Went to the next store of groceries and walked around with one shoe with no laces in it. So I was walking kind of funny, trying to keep my foot in my boot. It worked. Makes kind of a funny story. So I went home, unloaded the groceries, and my trunk was still, because it had bounced a bit as I was driving home, the shoelace knot was getting weaker and weaker and slipping, so the trunk was kind of like open by a few inches, but I'm in my parking lot, there's nothing in the trunk. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'll go in and tie it later. Round about midnight 30, tappity tappity tap 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 at my front door. I don't expect anyone to knock on my door ever, let alone at midnight 30. Luckily, I still had my clothes on. So I grabbed my mask, and mask, not mask, and opened the door, and it was my next door neighbor, who was standing across the way, not right in front of my door, and she told me that my trunk was open, which was nice of her. I informed her that, yeah, I know, it's tied shut, the latch is broken. And I reflected and I thought that's why the knock was so timid, because I'll give her some credit. It takes some chutzpah to knock on someone's door at midnight 30. Because they might be asleep. They might be naked. They might be both. So I could tell how timid and unsure she was just by the knock, knock, knock. Almost the kind of knock where you're like, did I really hear a knock? I did. So I decided, well, I better fix this now. So I grabbed my flashlight, went out to the car, lowered the back seats, crawled into the trunk, holding the flashlight between my teeth, properly tied the trunk closed. Of course, the car service place is closed on Sunday, which meant I was either going to have to take time off of work to get my trunk fixed during the week, or wait till this Saturday. I waited until today. So I spent 3 or 4 hours this afternoon because they're just really busy. I showed up, I think, at like noon 30, and they were on lunch. Apparently, all of them. Now, I don't run that business. I don't run any business but my own. Personal business. But if I ran the car service place, I would, if it were feasible, tell my employees to stagger their lunch breaks so they're not all gone at the same time. Maybe there's a good reason they don't do it that way. Maybe there's some weird California state law that prevents them from doing that. I don't know. But that added like half an hour to my wait. But, I went for a hike. I wandered around Walmart because it was there. Luckily, the broken latch on my trunk was covered by the warranty, so that's nice. What was not nice is that my tire pressure light went on as I was driving to the service place. So I asked them to look at that. Hole in my tire, not one that could be patched. They did not have my tire. But they could get my tire on Monday. She said the ones I have are $135. I said, how much are the ones that are on my car now? I said $115. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna like leave my car here and rent a car for 2 days or for $20. No, just put the more expensive tires on, please. As I was driving to the dealership, I'm sitting at a red light when honk, and then I notice the light's still red. I'm like, you asshole! You absolute asshole honking at me! The light's still red! What if I drove out into traffic, asshole? In the Volvo? Oops, did I mute myself? No. So when the light turned green, I went. And the Volvo pulled up next to me at the next light and yelled at me. Your trunk's open. Oh, that's what he was honking at. Because my trunk was open a couple of inches. Because, again, shoelace slips, especially with the repeated bouncing of the trunk. Good enough to get me all the way to the dealership, but I was slipping a little bit, so the trunk was open by 3 minutes. But he wanted to honk and let me know that my trunk was open, which was nice. I took the honk as a, stop sitting at a green light, you jerk. Nearly drove out into the intersection. Oh God, I'm sitting at a green light. No, it's still red. What, you jerk? No, just trying to tell me that my trunk was ajar. So that was nice. Well, now I have a new tires in the rear, full of air, and a trunk that latches when I close it. So life is good. Last week on the podcast, I'm just going to live in the past and talk about last week's podcast. Last week's podcast, I spent a good chunk of time talking about a short clip from the upcoming Ghostbusters movie that Sony released online a couple weeks ago, featuring the mini Stay Puft Marshmallow peoples who go full gremlins in a Walmart or something. During that podcast, I showed that 30-second clip from Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters Afterlife, so that you would know what the hell I was talking about. Sony claimed my entire podcast because 30 seconds of it was its commercial, which it uses to advertise its movie, which it wants you to pay them money to see. Sony is perfectly within its rights to do that. I still think it's a shit thing to do, but it is within Sony's rights to do that. It is perfectly legal. I don't think it's right, but it is perfectly legal that if I have an hour and a half long podcast and I use 30 seconds of your content, even if it's transformative, even if it's a fair use, I use it for commentary, you can still claim my entire podcast. You can do that. Legally. It's legal. You can do that. So I thought ill of Sony and went about my day because I, not going to fight that. It's true. I did use their commercial in my podcast. Well, Sony, enjoy the 2.5 cents that my podcast earns you. But, I did not contest the claim. Sony, of its own volition, dropped the claim a couple days later. So now I am earning that 2.5 cents that this video may make over the next couple of years. They're all mine. Both those cents and the half, it's all mine. Sony's like, oh wait, you just aired your commercial, which we air because we want as many people as possible to see it, so that they'll pay us money to see our movie. Okay, yeah, we're actually cool with that. So, that's probably more of a Sony uploads their clips to a copyright database, and it's YouTube's algorithm that just matches things, and then they automatically claim themes. Personally, I've mentioned this before. I'm not going to belabor the point too much tonight, but I think that every claim, or let me say it more simply, no copyright claim should be automated. The claim itself. Notifications to the copyright owner? Sure. Automate the hell out of that. Then they can manually review it and then make an actual intelligent, one would hope, decision as to whether to make a claim or not. For example, years and years ago, one of the first things I did on a dare from somebody was I did an MST3K style riff of 10 minutes of a Sex Will Get You Killed movie from the 30s called Sex Madness. Every single week, YouTube notifies me of scores of videos that are using my movie. I don't own Sex Madness. That's a public domain film. Nobody owns it. And yet, YouTube keeps saying, you might want to look into this. People are using your stuff. Nope. YouTube, you are wrong every single time. Every single time. You are literally batting 0 at this. I almost want to delete that video just so I don't have to deal with this dumb shit. Because again, it's a public domain movie. I don't own it. Now, if someone re-uploaded my riff of the portion of the movie that I riffed, that would be one thing. But it's not my audio that's triggering the notification. It's the fact that they're using the same footage that I used, which they're perfectly allowed to do because, again, it's a public domain movie, which means it's in the domain of the public. Anyone can use it for any reason. It's not owned by anyone anymore. So you don't need to tell me that someone uploaded the Sex Madness movie for the millionth time on YouTube. I don't know why that movie needs to be uploaded a million times on YouTube, but I don't need to know about it every damn time just because I riffed 10 minutes of it. I always imagine YouTube as a singular person. And I always want to talk to this person. And I want to ask this person, YouTube, are you not horrifically embarrassed by how pathetically incompetent you are at the most simple things? Doesn't this embarrass you? Aren't you utterly humiliated to get the same thing wrong every time? I guess not. Or if the anthropomorphized YouTube is embarrassed, the salve on that wound is money. It's like, yeah, it's embarrassing, but make a lot of damn money, so I put up with it. YouTube often warns me that one of my videos, I'm a fairly frequent, not multiple a day, but I have a couple of videos a week. These seem to go in waves, but during the wave, YouTube will flag a good chunk of my videos as being against its advertising rules, inappropriate for advertisers. It has been wrong. It has admitted to me that it was wrong, that it got it wrong. You know, because they mark my videos, they flag my videos inappropriate. I click the try actually looking at the video and comparing it to what your guidelines are button. And then within 2 days they get back and they go, good news, we reviewed video whatever and it falls within the our guidelines, so we've unflagged it, yay! That is YouTube admitting that it got it wrong. YouTube has flagged dozens upon dozens upon dozens of my videos over the years. It has got it wrong, literally, every single time. YouTube's literally batting zero at this. It's got it wrong by its own admission. It's not me disagreeing. It's YouTube reviewing its own flagging system and going, got it wrong again. Like you would think at some point they'd just give me the benefit of the doubt, right? After several years of getting it wrong every single time, they'd just be like, you know what? Maybe we should try something different because we're batting zero here. And this is just embarrassing. No. Nah. YouTube's just going to YouTube. As I've mentioned before, I would happily put up with stupid, unnecessary poop, like being told that someone else uploaded the same public domain movie that I did, or flagging videos of mine that do not by any stretch of the imagination fall outside its advertising guidelines. I would put up with all that nonsense. in exchange for really simple things like deplatform bigots and hate speech and harmful disinformation. You know? If YouTube says, you know what, all bigotry, you know, if we find a bigot on our platform, we're kicking them right off. But in exchange for us kicking the bad guys off our channel, you're going to have to put up with some nonsense. Okay. Deal. So this week, a well-known game developer had a podcast with a semi-well-known, I suppose, game developer. I'm not going to name them because it's not really important. But also, I did not listen to the entire 4-hour podcast, so I don't feel it's right to really criticize the people when I didn't actually listen to what they said. I just read reports of what they discussed, and what they discussed is what I would like to discuss. So I will. During this podcast, it was stated, reportedly, again, I didn't listen to the podcast, generally speaking, that gamers shouldn't complain if a game they really liked did not get a sequel if they didn't support the game at full price at launch. Here are a few quotes that that were reportedly said on the podcast. If you love a game, buy it at full fucking price. I can't tell you how many times I've seen gamers say, yeah, I got that on sale, I got it through PS Plus, whatever. As a game developer, this person being a developer of games, MX, hello. I get where he's coming from. I can understand why a developer would be salty that their game didn't sell very well, or at the very least didn't make enough money to justify to the publishers to make a sequel. And a developer spends years, oftentimes, on these properties, and may have a genuine and true love for them, and it probably hurts that even in the instances where your game might actually be critically well received, might actually sell a lot, but the publisher still says, you know, it just didn't make enough money for us to justify greenlighting a sequel. I can understand how frustrating that might be. And again, I'm not going to name the people on the podcast because it doesn't matter for these purposes. I do, however, think that this game developer's ire would be better directed not at us game consumers, but at the video game industry as a whole. Because this guy's main argument is, if you love games and you want them to continue on in sequels, you should support them at full price at launch. There was a point in the podcast, apparently, where someone said, well, you don't know you love it until you buy it. So, and he goes, yeah, fair point, but blah, blah, blah. You know, so recognizing that. His main point of consternation is gamers oftentimes will look forward to a game. They'll see cool previews. They'll see some early access Let's Plays. And oh man, this looks badass. Gotta get me some of that in 3 months when it drops in price, or when I can get it on PS Plus or Xbox Gold Live Arcade Game Pass, whatever it's called. Um, He says, people aren't buying it for full price, so even though the game might sell 6 million copies, if people are only paying $20 for it, it's not making as much money as it would if they'd buy it for full price. And our publishers are saying, well, it's just not making enough money, so we're not greenlighting a sequel. Again, I understand how disheartening and frustrating that must be. Momo! I haven't seen you in a while. Hello. But again, I do feel that this particular developer's ire would be better, more constructive, if directed at the game industry as a whole. Because this is based on my feelings, I don't feel it's fair to call gamers out for being as frugal as they are, one might call it. In cases, there are a lot of people who do buy games at $60 or whatever the MSRP is day one. But I don't think it's fair to blame gamers for the way they consume video games when it, hello Travis, when it is the game industry that has taught us, the game consumers. The game industry has spent well over a decade teaching us game consumers, drilling it into our heads that if we just wait a couple of months, not only will the game be cheaper by usually $20, but we'll have patched all the broken bits too. The game industry has taught us that games oftentimes on day one are broken. The game industry has taught us over and over and over again that a couple months later, it's going to be on sale. The game industry has taught us over and over and over again that it is not above patching in stuff that would have prevented us from buying it in the first place. For example, you may draw the line at loot boxes, and you may see a game that launches and go, oh good, no loot boxes. In fact, the publisher may say, hey look, our game, no loot boxes, aren't we swell? So you buy the game, and then a month later, after the majority of the sales have been made, the publisher puts loot boxes in. That's happened before. So gamers are understandably cautious buying games full price at launch because the industry teaches us that games often don't work at launch, that the game is incomplete, and that it will be cheaper if we're just a little patient. Also, the game industry teaches us game consumers, has taught us repeatedly for a decade plus, that if we're patient, in about a year, you will be able to buy the complete game with all of the DLC for cheaper than the asking price at launch. If you just wait a year, you can buy the definitive edition of the game. That includes all the bits that weren't in there in the first place. If you're just a little patient, you've got a backlog of games that you can bide the time until the definitive edition comes out a year, 14, 15 months later. It'll cost $20 to $40, which is $20 to $40 cheaper than it was at MSRP. Plus, it'll have all the bug fixes that we did over the last year. Plus, it'll have all the DLC that we released and that anyone who bought it at launch had to pay extra for. So if you're just patient and you wait a year, you can buy a complete fixed version of the game for cheap. The game industry has taught us that, has drilled that into our heads for years. For over a decade, the game industry has devalued its games in that way. It has told us our games are not worth $60. So when some gamers are not willing to pay $60 at launch. That's why. So again, I feel anyone who's upset that they don't get to make the sequel to their game because it didn't make enough money for the publisher by their metric anyway. I think that ire would be better directed at the game industry for teaching us not to buy games at launch. Now, there are exceptions. Nintendo's a notable one. Nintendo has taught us gamers repeatedly for decades that their games are worth full price forever until we release a Player's Choice Edition 10 years later. Nintendo does not drop the price of their games. If there's a sale, it's not half off, it's not 60% off, it's maybe you can get Luigi's Mansion 3 for $40 to celebrate Mario Day on March 10th. That's about the best you're going to do. There are first-party Nintendo games that came out a decade ago that you could go to Walmart or Target or wherever, and they still cost $60. Maybe you'll find Walmart selling them for like $58.95 or something like that. And as frustrating and as annoying as that is, especially for cheap assholes like me who really don't want to pay $60 for a game, that is telling me that Nintendo values its games at $60 and it is not willing to drop the price. And so, you do get some goobers going, well, I'm going to buy it used. Or, well, I'm not going to buy it then. But a good chunk of gamers understand that Nintendo games, they're $60. They're $60 for a long, long time. So if you want the Nintendo goodness, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's my thoughts on that. So, I saw a casting announcement from Pixar. They make movies, don't you know? Animated movies. And apparently this is a true casting announcement. So allow me to regale you with a reading of this casting announcement for a voiceover actor for an upcoming animated project done by Pixar and Disney. Pixar, casting search, Pixar Animation Studios. Pixar is casting a youth voiceover role for an upcoming animated project. The character, Jess, is a 14-year-old transgender girl. She's compassionate, funny, and always has your back. We're looking for actresses 12 to 17 years old who are enthusiastic, outgoing, funny, and energetic. Feel comfortable acting in front of a microphone. And this bullet point is underlined, can authentically portray a 14-year-old transgender girl. If you know a child who fits this description and would like to audition for the role, her legal guardian should contact casting@pixar.com. Okay, so apparently there is a trans character in an upcoming Pixar film. And Pixar is interested in casting an actor for it. I have to say that the underlined bullet point is a bit of a red flag in the way it's phrased. It says, can authentically portray a 14-year-old transgender girl. To me, cisgendered white dude, the only actor who could authentically portray a 14-year-old transgender girl would be a transgender girl youth. I am concerned, cynical perhaps, sure, but concerned that the way this is phrased, can authentically portray, means we're going to cast a cis actor, but their portrayal is so authentic. I really think that should read looking for a trans actor to voice a trans character. Also, being that I'm cynical, warranted or not, one of my first thoughts when reading this casting announcement was, oh, is this character in more than one scene? Yeah, is it just a background character? It's like, go Spider-Man, or go Seabiscuit! I hope it's a lead. That'd be cool. Probably not. Nothing that says it's not. Other than the industry being really slow to bother with the stories of anyone who doesn't look like me. I recall, Pixar, to its credit, didn't boast about this from what I saw. But I did see a lot of plaudits and kudos, a lot of adulations in the press for the queer character in Pixar's Onward. Wait, was that Pixar or was that just Disney? I don't know. So Onward was I don't know if that was Disney Animation Studios or Pixar. Someone in the chat tell me. And they're like, "Oh, there's a gay character in Onward, yay!" And I thought, I've seen Onward. Who are we talking about? And they said, the cop. And I thought about it and I said, is he bi? Because I think he's dating the mom, right? Hi, Tiger. Um, no, the other cop. I'm like, what other cop? And they had to describe the scene to me. I'm like, oh, the Cyclops cop, who has one scene and 3 lines. Oh yeah, you're right. She does say something like, "Yeah, my girlfriend's kid drives me nuts." Better than nothing, but I don't know. There's just something that makes me uneasy about handing out gold stars and cookies to storytellers simply for acknowledging that queer people exist. I'm glad you are acknowledging that queer people exist. That's that's something. Boy, that's a thing. Good on you for that much. There are a lot of things that exist. Trees exist. You see them in movies all the time because they're things that exist. Rarely, if ever, do you see a movie starring a tree because a tree is not a person. Queer people are, though, and they've got stories that could be told. Dogs are a thing that exist. You see them in movies all the time. I was on Disney Plus this afternoon. And while I'm not comparing queer people to dogs, I would like to point out that there are 157 movies on Disney Plus starring dogs. From the Buddies movies to the Santa Paws movies. Oh yeah, that's a franchise. There's a Benji movie on there. I don't know if Isle of Dogs counts. That's a stop motion animation. I'm also making up the number 157. But there are a lot of movies on Disney Plus alone where dogs, which are not people, are literally the main character of the movie. How many movies on Disney Plus do you think star a queer character? Might be zero. If it's not zero, it's probably a number pretty close to that. So I do think it's at the very least worth examining why it might be that we have 157 movies starring dogs and none starring queer people. I mean, it's nice that there are a couple movies with queer characters in them who have a scene with at least 3 lines of dialogue, like the aforementioned Onward, like Avengers Endgame. There's a gay guy in that, played by a straight guy. He's in one scene. He's got like 3 lines. Doesn't actually have a character name. We never see him again, but he's there. Queer people exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. LeFou in Beauty and the Beast, I hear, is gay. Or at least it's implied. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. But there were 2 women kissing in Star Wars. In the background, you could totally see them smooching. I don't know if they actually have names. They probably do have names, because every character in Star Wars has a name that they can put on the toy, but they're totally there. Gay people exist in Star Wars. So that's at least 4 movies that have gay people in them somewhere. I'm sure there's a couple more you could name. As soon as you're done watching 157 movies with dogs as the lead character. So, circling back around to Pixar's casting thing, number one, I hope they understand that an authentic portrayal of a trans girl can really only come from a trans actor. Trans actor. It's fun when you say those 2 words together. So that could just be weird, odd wording. So hopefully they cast a trans actor, and hopefully this role is not a bit part. Hopefully we get a full story about a trans character. That would be great, because I've seen plenty of movies about dudes like me. I am not suffering for media starring dudes like me. Got them bases are covered. Not lacking for that at all. In fact, not just movies, literally all of media. Literally every aspect of life everywhere. Main characters of almost every single... I could grab pretty much any movie off the shelves behind me. It's going to star someone who looks like me, probably. There's a really high percentage. Movies, cartoons, TV shows, news anchors, CEOs of businesses in real life, presidents. They almost all look like me. Wow. It's almost like I'm special. I'm important. It's almost like anyone who doesn't look like me is not as special. Innately, inherently, not as important. And you might say, that's not true. One white woman. White dude. Well, does this count as 2? This might count as... Well, let's call it 1. One white dude. Asian dude. White woman. Same white woman. Where's the other one? I have the other one in here. Yeah. Sequel, so white woman. Resident Evil... this is 7. Ethan, white dude. L.A. Noire, white dude. Whoops, that's the wrong pile. That's the WOMS pile. Here we go. White dude. Um, Resident Evil 5. White dude and black woman. So there's some ill-advised portrayals in this one, in some aspects, but so we could put that in the center somewhere. Fun stuff. Video games are good. Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo. That's a fun name. Awesome. They almost had Love Victor. They almost had Love Victor on. Oh God, yeah, I know what movie you're talking about. Love Victor is the name of it. It's is it oh, what the hell's the name of the actor? Is it Ewan McGregor? Am I thinking of the right movie? Anyway, but they decided to put it on Hulu. Yeah, yeah. Always interesting. I've not seen the movie, so I have no opinion on whether that film would be well suited to a Disney audience. Most of the movies on Disney Plus are no harder than PG-13. So if that movie has like explicit sex in it, then I could understand. It's like, yeah, we don't host platform movies with explicit sex on our Disney Plus platform. Fair enough. But I do get my underwear in a bunch over the idea that queer relationships are not family friendly, but straight relationships are. It's okay seeing a dude and a dudette kiss. That's going at it full tongue, swap and spit, tonsil hockey, the whole 9 yards. That's fun for the entire family. But two dudes kissing, two dudettes kissing, or anything other than one dude and one dudette kissing, same actual action between consenting adults, but when it's queer people, that's not appropriate for the kiddies. No, you're just a homophobe, so don't do that. Because I'll call you out on it. On my platform of like 500 Twitter followers. I will tell on you, I will tell my 500 Twitter followers that you are a homophobe. So you watch your ass. How many Twitter followers do I have? I know I had 777 at one point, just because that was a notable number. What is it now? How do I... 581. Wow, so I've lost 200 followers over the last 4-some years. During the great algorithm change of spring 2017. Whatever the hell happened there. So, man, now I gotta put these, and I gotta re-alphabetize these things on my shelf. But I did the visual aids for you. What are we talking about? We've got lols and stuff. We've got redacted messages. I don't know. The stream is going bad. I get my undies in a bundle. I mean, there are some pretty good sales going on right now. Well, if it glitched, it's going okay now. I'm seeing green. I haven't dropped any frames on my end, so maybe YouTube was being funny. Ha. 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 So, moving on to our last topic of the evening. Humble Bundle. So, Humble Bundle started a decade ago, offering up bundles of video games that you could pick your price for. I actually made a silly video about this 10 years ago. I forget what it's called, but I could probably look that up if anyone's interested. I was pretty proud of it. I know Humble Bundle actually thought it was funny too, because I actually heard from them on it. They're like, that was actually pretty funny. Let's see. It is called Humble Bundle Humbug, and it is one of my earliest videos. You can tell because it's still shot on my work laptop camera and microphone. James, hey, haven't seen you in a while. And Cafe Fox, hello. So here it is if anyone wants to watch it. The Humble Bundle Humbug. Just me being silly. So basically the idea was here's a bundle of games. You can pick your price for it, and you can decide where your money goes. What portion goes to the hosting platform, Humble Bundle, what portion goes to the developers of the games of the bundle, and what portion goes to this, the charity that we're supporting this week or month or whatever. You could send all the money to charity. You could send it all to the devs. You could split it up any way you want. They used little sliders underneath so that if you said, I'm going to pay $5 for this bundle, and I'm going to put $1 to Humble Bundle and $2 to the devs and $2 to Doctors Without Borders or Red Cross or Water or whatever, that's what I'm going to do. Well, that's changing. So Humble Bundle, who I would remind has the word humble in its name, put out a blog post that said this. It's a little bit of a read, so stick with me. Humble Bundle launched with a single game bundle over a decade ago that featured the ability to pay what you want and support charities with every purchase. Since then, the amazing and passionate Humble community has helped raise $195 million for charity. Today, we want to share some updates coming to bundle pages and how these updates will help us continue to support charity in the future and how sliders fit into the picture. Let's start with sliders. About a month ago, we turned on a test that hid sliders for certain customers. This test was part of our bigger plans to make updates to the bundle pages, but without any context, we see how it raised questions and led to confusion for the community. We apologize for that and appreciate everyone who wrote in to ask us about it. The lesson for us was that we should have been more proactive in communicating the test. Let me stop right there. You should have communicated the test. We should have been more proactive in you should have communicated it, period. You didn't communicate it at all. Bad form. Continuing on, we also want to take the time to provide insight into what's coming with the bundle pages and how it will be more in line with how our other products support charity. Since we launched bundles over a decade ago, sliders have not changed even as Humble evolved by building products like Humble Choice and the Humble Store that all support charity without sliders. In late May, we'll begin testing a new bundle page that replaces sliders while also updating the design and adding features that better highlight content. Here's a preview of what's coming. Alright. So far, other than the proactive thing, which just I'm a stickler for wording, what can I say? Am I sunburned? Yeah, I'm sunburned a little bit. It's from walking around outside. Because my car was getting fixed and I was walking around for 3 hours, so, oh well. What was I talking about? Humble Bundle. So Humble Bundle has evolved over the years. It used to just be every month or so would be a new bundle that would last for 2 weeks or so, and see how much money we could raise, pay what you want, put as much as you want to charity, blah, 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 blah. And that stayed consistent for years. As Humble grew, it created its own store. And it created the Humble Choice program, which is kind of not a loot box, but kind of a version of its own PlayStation Plus. You pay a fee, I think, and then you get stuff, a monthly subscription thingy. Humble also has been publishing some of its own games. So what's changing with the sliders thing? So we're replacing sliders with defined amounts and an option to further support charity. Sliders will be replaced by toggles with defined splits that clearly show what amount of your purchase will support Humble, publishers, and charity. The extra to charity toggle will triple the split for charity to 15%. So it appears, based on their description and a little animated picture, GIF that they have on the site, that You choose your amount. There is a baseline. Sometimes it's like choose your own amount, but it has to be at least $12 if you want all this stuff. Yeah, that's been the case for a while. But it appears that the most, whatever amount you're willing to pay, you can only uh, dictate up to 15%. There's a hard cap at 15% to charity. So a lot of people were putting it all to charity, I guess, is the impetus behind this. Um, so again, what they're doing is saying like you're giving too much money to charity, you should give some of that to us. And we're capping how much you can give to charity to 15%. Pay what you want, but 85% of that's coming to us and or the developers. You don't get to choose anymore. It looks like it's either 5% or it's 15%. Period. End of story. So Humble is going forward appears to maybe not be the best way to support charity if that's why you've purchased bundles in the past. I know I have. Many of the Humble bundles I've purchased over the years, I would not have bothered with if it weren't to support charity. I've bought plenty of bundles over the year, just like, yeah, I'll send money to charity and get some games that maybe someday I'll look at. I It would not surprise me if I found out that I have played literally zero of the games that I've bought through Humble Bundle over the years, because that's not the point. Which means that I am almost guaranteed to not bother buying anything from Humble, or at least not a Humble Bundle anymore. I might actually buy a game if it's a game I want and it's on sale. Sure. But I am significantly disinclined to actually purchase any of the bundles. I don't I don't have any data to back this up, but I never got the sense that there was any measure of confusion among, consumers that the bundles were, primarily a charity thing and the store and the subscription thing were primarily the help us keep this business going so that we can do the charity bundles. Now it's just we're a business and we want as much money from you as we can get. At least that's what it feels like. And it may be the case that Humble was, I mean, especially right now with the pandemic, probably lost a lot of money. Or maybe they didn't because a lot of us are stuck home and bought a bunch of video games. Who knows? But if Humble would have come out and said, hey, look, you guys are just amazingly charitable, and the majority of you who buy bundles throw most of the money, if not all of it, to charity. And that's great. You guys are wonderful. But it costs money to do this, to organize the bundles and to the server space and to make sure the site doesn't crash and tech support and all of our employees here that we do have to pay because they're employees. We are going to have to make sure that at least X percent of every pay what you want amount comes to us so that we can continue to do this. 85% seems high to me. If they'd said something like, you have 80% of your pay what you want monies to dictate what you want. You can get, we're taking 20% because we need that, otherwise we can't do this anymore. But that other 80%, put it all to charity, put it all to the devs, give it all to us, dice it up how you want. It's cool, but 20% is going to have to come to us just so that we can keep doing what we do. I think that would have been a lot more palatable, whether true or not. But the way it comes off, to me at least, is we don't like it that you're giving all the money to charity. You should you should be generous with your money and give more of it to us. That may not be the impetus, but that's, to me at least, what it comes across as. So, yeah. But hey, there's better surfacing content. Reading further in the blog, it says, no more scrolling to the very bottom of the page to see what's in the highest tier. You can now see all the content more easily by tabbing through the tiers. See, the bundles for a long time have been, spend at least $1 and you get these 5 games. A little bit further down the page, spend at least $10 and you get these additional 5 games. Scroll a little bit further down the page, spend at least $25 and get these 2 super special games. Scroll down the page, $50 and you get all this crap down here too. So what they're doing is they're doing the at least $1, $5, $10, $25, whatever thing, as tabs that you can tab between to see what are in each tier rather than having to scroll down the entire page. That's nice. That's handy. That's consumer friendly. Good on you for that. But this whole pay what you want for charity, but you can only give 15% to charity. The rest of that shit's coming to us. Let's be real, yo. Yeah. Not the best look. Humble bundle. Not the best look at all. So, that's the podcast. Before I go, though, I would like to point out something that I found kind of funny. I recorded yesterday, I believe, it doesn't matter. I recorded a debut review for, I don't have my phone on me. It's, don't be mean to me. No, shoot, I'm going to have to look. Hang on, hold on to your biscuits. Nope. No. Don't toy with me, Miss Nagatoro. That's a very American R I put in there, but I'm American, so sue me. Don't toy with me, Miss Nagatoro. So, if you're not familiar, Debut Review is a show on YouTube I publish where I review the debut episode of a television series and let you know what I think, because everyone's really wondering what I think. Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro is a regular anime television show. It's the episode's like 22-23 minutes long. I think my debut review might be longer than the episode. I had thoughts on it, and it's always funny when the thoughts I have on a piece of media takes longer to detail than the actual piece of media itself. So look forward to that. The next debut review will be Invincible, which is interesting considering that I did an episode of the first arc of the comic. So I did a show called 30 Days of Comics where I read the first few issues of various comic series. Invincible is one of them. I didn't like it. So it'll be interesting to see what my debut review of the live action cartoon, the cartoon is. So next is Invincible. After that is Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. Alright, so that's it for tonight. Join me tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time, and we will continue on through Trails in the Sky, which I'm guessing we're getting close to the end. Queen Alicia's birthday is fast upon us, and she's sick. She's not dead, but she's under the weather. So maybe we'll go on a quest for a magical elixir that will make her feel better, so that she can have cake and blow out the candles and stuff. Because that's the important thing, not the coup to install dipshit Dunham, whatever his name, Duke Dunham, on the throne. We can worry about that later, but you know, we got ice cream cake for Queen Alicia's birthday, and it's her favorite, and it would be just a big old bummer if she couldn't have any. So, join me tomorrow, noon Pacific Standard Time, here on YouTube or on Twitch or Facebook Live, if that's how you roll, and we'll play some more Trails in the Sky. It will be fun. For me, at least. So, have a wonderful evening. Hope to see you tomorrow afternoon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.